Billy, it feels like forever since you guys were able to have a practice here in town. Just your thoughts on being able to do that and what you were able to get accomplished today.
Yeah, we got some work in defensively, which was good. I think we needed that. Then we're able to do some scripting. Really wasn't a high level of contact, but we got, I thought, some good work in, which was needed.
Billy, given the way you guys have defended the three, this obviously is a team that got three guys shooting a high volume and shooting great percentage. What are the challenges of just dealing with them on the perimeter?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to do a good job. It starts in transition. They're really good at getting the ball out, whether it's miss or make. Our ability to get back down the floor, get the floor balanced, and match up. So yeah, that's critical. But at the same point too, I always say this: like really good offensive teams in this league, do two things. They shoot the ball really well from behind the line, and they score really well in around the basket because the floor is so spaced. So there's not just so much run them off the line, because you can do that, then you're going to drive it to the front of the rim, and you certainly don't want to give layups. So, it's a game where you're going to have to really scramble, and there's going to have to be a lot of multiple efforts, because when you're out that high and that deep, there's going to be penetration, and we got to cover for each other.
When you were talking about those closeouts and the way you guys close out in the past few games from the three-point line, how important is it to get practice time to be able to either practice that in practice or reinforce that through film?
I think reinforcing is important. The thing that we can't be concerned about is we've got to be able to get out there. And I would say you're not going to stop teams from necessarily shooting three-point shots, but what you do try to do is break rhythm, where you can take them and not try to eliminate the rhythm threes. If guys are playing with the ball up top off the dribble and they shoot up off a dribble, that's generally going to be pretty contested, and that's pretty good defense even if they make it. It's the ones where they're in rhythm, ball gets moved around, and the guy's just stepping into a shot uninhibited and is just, like just shooting. And even if there's a guy closing to him, you got to close there quicker to get him off the line.
Does that hesitance to close out, does that come from guys being afraid to get beat?
Yeah, it's just
give up the middle?
Yeah, the instinctive part is when you're closing out is to kind of like be under control, and there's some times where we've got to have the recognition of like, okay, I can't get there, so I'm better off kind of going out there out of control. I'm not talking about out of control to foul a guy, but in terms of, okay, I don't care if he goes by me, I need to get him off the line without fouling him, where that's all it is just urgency to get out there. And there's times where we've kind of gone out there like we're under control, like we're trying to control ourselves to control the dribble, but the guy's in such a rhythm that we got to have a better awareness of that. Like when the guy's getting ready to be in rhythm, we got to try to break that rhythm.
You also have to have a trust as a guy doing that rotation's going to happen behind you.
No question, absolutely. That was my whole thing. When Andre went out, everybody's talking about that. Is there's got to be 5 guys have got to be on a string and they got to be connected. Because you're exactly right. If Steven Adams is going to go close to Lopez, he may put the ball on the floor and drive it. The next person's got to be there to provide help. Otherwise you're going to have Steven closing out short the whole entire game and giving him rhythm threes, and you don't want to do that. So, it's two things I think at this level. It's one is you got to protect deep paint, because that's where a lot of fouls take place. It's the highest percentage shot in the game. And then you got to be able to get back out to the three-point line. You got to be able to do both things, and that's why I think a lot of teams have avoided trying to take a lot of non-paint twos and taking more threes and more things at the basket. And you're defensively trying to force teams into those areas of floor to take those shots. But it really requires a lot of moving around and 5 guys being linked and united and together in terms of on a string moving from one thing to the next.
You talked about the starts in transition, defending these guys at the three-point line. In the half court, where does three-point defense start? Is it on the ball?
Yeah, well, I mean, first starts, based on whatever it is that's happening. I mean, if it's screening action, you're going to have a lot of long arm shows with your bigs. You're going to have guys connected and being able to kind of, footstep guys coming off screens. If it's pick and rolls, you're going to have to be up in coverage. A lot of the threes generally take place off of penetration. Somebody beats somebody off the dribble, or the ball goes in the post and it comes back out. But most of the time, the floor is spaced and somebody beats somebody and someone's forced to help, and then the ball gets kicked. Now what happens is, can you catch up to the ball? And a lot of times when it gets driven to the middle of the floor, it's hard to catch up to it. A lot of times when it's driven baseline, it's a little bit easier to catch up to it.
Billy, after a day of practice, do you expect to start the same way tomorrow night?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure.
Jeremy's done a good job putting the ball on the deck and driving. How have you seen him kind of make progress in that area?
He's gotten better. He's gotten better. I think one of the things that he's doing is sometimes when these teams maybe close a little bit shorter to him, to contain him, he's doing a good job of taking up the space and driving at guys, and he's good with the ball, changing directions, and he's had some good drives.
What makes you reconsider your starting lineup after a day of practice going into this game?
Well, I just think I have to evaluate. We've lost 4 games in a row,
Mhm.
so I think my job is to try to look at what's best for our team. I'm not saying I'm going to do that, but I think I have to look at all those things right now. I think one of the things, with it is one of our starters went down at Andre. So, Terrence, I know everybody was really, really thrilled in LA when he had the game he had, and kind of, where's this guy? But I think I made the comment, like, over a period of time, there'll be different things that he'll have to go through. And it has nothing to do with Terrence. It's about, like, okay, how do we best work our team now that a guy like Andre is out? What's the best thing? Is it best thing having, Terrence Starter come off the bench? Is it Jeremy? Is it Alex? Is it Josh? Those are things I think we have to take a look at and at least bounce around as a staff to try to figure out the best way to go forward. And then the other part of it too is the matchup part of it. Who's matched up on who's playing against who. That was the one thing about Andre is you never worried about who the other team was playing because he was such an elite defender. He was going to line up against whoever it was he was going to play against. So, I think Terrence and Josh have got the ability to be really, really good defensive players. I think they're getting better and they're improving. I have confidence in both of them. But I think also you want to be able to evaluate, where the group is at and what's the best thing for the group.
Is it almost more difficult when you have a guy like Jeremy that can do a lot of different things well, like guard the perimeter and also protect the rim for you?
Yeah, I mean he's a unique player. He's gotten a lot better because I think for most of his career he's been used to being a front court player, so he's used to being in coverage, calling out coverages, especially defensively and pick and rolls. Now he's a guy that's on the ball a lot more. But he is a guy that's versatile enough that you can switch pick and rolls with him. He can play post defense. He does rebound. He does rim protect. So, yeah, his versatility defensively. And I think he's gotten better moving his feet. I felt like, early on, he had sometimes, guards that were really, really good with the ball, gave him challenges, where I think he's gotten more accustomed to guarding smaller people and trying to keep him in front and then figuring out how to gap those guys and use his length to contest.
When you have a guy like Carmelo, who you've asked him to change some, and he's played a lot more power forward, is there any reluctance to say, like, we're going to slide him back to the 3, and now he goes back to doing some other things, or are you open to?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you have to be that, again, but it all comes down to like the matchup part of it. If he does slide down to the small forward spot, then you have a power forward, who that is, you know what I mean? If it is Patrick, then who's playing their small forward? If it's Jeremy, is he on the small forward? How does your offense work? Like all those things. And, we tried to work on some of those things today a little bit offensively with some different guys being on the floor. But yeah, I mean, I think everything's open, because the 5th guy on our team, not that he was the last 5th guy, but the guy that we've lost, Andre, it's put us in a situation where we have to, look at, like I said, look at different combinations of things. And sometimes it may even be moving Jeremy to small forward spot and keeping Carmelo at the 4, letting him run offensively as the power forward, and Jeremy plays the 3, doing different things. So I think you have to, all those things have to be up for discussion that we've got to look at to try to figure out some different things that we can do to help the group. Okay.
Thanks. What makes Steven so good at setting those hard screens? Is it physicality? Is it timing? And how important is that in your offense?
I think he's got it really down well with Russell because I think they've played together for so long. I think he's starting to figure out a little bit more with Carmelo and Paul, and even Raymond when he's been out there with the second unit. He's trying to figure that out. The biggest thing for Steven is once he screens, we need him downhill rolling. We need him ahead of the ball and rolling downhill. I think that he's really good at reading his man, and I think that's a lot of it. He can read his man and where the guy's at. And sometimes when he's going up the screens, like for someone like Russell, the minute the defender changes his feet and gives Russell a lane, he doesn't even need to screen. Like a lot of times he'll just get out because the guy's on the side of Russell, and now it gives Russell a head of steam. And now what he's trying to do is get down up ahead of front of Russell so he can get some lobs to the rim or some bounce passes on some rolls. And Russell's an interesting guy to play pick and roll with because he's so explosive as a screener. You want to be able to give him the opportunity to hit you rolling. So Steven's done a good job figuring out when to actually screen and when to roll. I think he'll get better and better the more pick and rolls he's in with the other guys.
Speaking of Steven, have you encountered a player don't know if I'd use the word selfless or how you would describe Steven, but he very clearly does not really care about personal achievement, I think.
Right.
Have you encountered a player quite like that in all your years?
You know, I've been around guys that are, you know, all they're real, you know, just a team-orientated guy, and I would say maybe, I think Steven wants to have a good career, wants to help for the sake of the team, but I really think that, you know, there's certain guys that, you know, winning outrides everything for everything else. Everything else, it's all just they want to win. And I think for Steven, even besides the winning part and wanting to perform well, he just wants his teammates to have success. And that's, I think, culturally going to New Zealand and experiencing that, the way they are there, it was really, really refreshing in a lot of ways, because I don't think Steven ever views himself as being better than anybody. And I think Steven views like being part of a team, that it's his job and responsibility to bring happiness to the rest of the group, and he wants those guys to be happy. I think he wants those guys to be fulfilled. I think he wants them to be successful, and I think he wants to see us win. So it's always been about everybody else. There's a selflessness to him as it relates to just being part of team sports. And I don't know if that's because of the All Blacks New Zealand rugby, because they're certainly very, very famous for that. But the culture there and the way he is, and it was great for me to go there this summer and be part of it, because it is very, very unique. But a lot of it is a deep care for his teammates and wanting his teammates to be successful and trying to carry out his job, because he knows if he carries out his job, his teammates have success.
Yeah, like you told me, you've been successful at getting offensive rebounds because they just missed a lot of shots. Can't get him to say anything about himself.
Yes, yes.